Hi there, Lee Farnell here, and welcome to Leading Your Best Life. This is going to be a fantastic podcast because I've broken it down, this fantastic interview I did with client David Horlock, where we break down how we systematically broke sales records. If you're a CEO, managing director, a director of a board, a national sales manager, international sales manager, or just run your own business and go, how the hell do I get my numbers up? How do I get the best out of my team? Here, we're pulling back the curtain and you're getting detail that really is just mind-blowing. So stay tuned. It really is great. And I'll make a few notes and we'll talk about it after the interview. Here, get ready for this. Well, good morning, folks. This is going to be a fantastic Leading Your Best Life. I'm with David Horlock. We've known each other since the 80s, but we did some fantastic work together a few years ago with his organisation that he was with at the time, BSI, and we're going to talk about that. But I want to also delve down into David's secrets on leadership, management, personal well-being and life in general when we're talking about leading your best life. David, thank you so much for agreeing to be on Leading Your Best Life.
Pleasure, Lee. Good morning.
Mate, good on you. And where do I find you today?
Singapore, Lee. Singapore, hot and humid, thunderstorms.
You love it up there, though. You've spent all those years in Asia, and we'll get to that. And you've got a background there of, is that lavender? What's the flower there behind you?
I think it is lavender, but it could be peas, it could be lupins, but it's just nice pastures, and I'm very much into regen ag, and that's what a good pasture looks like.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, it certainly looks very fertile. Well, we'll get to that. Let's start, though, with your journey, the David Horlock story, because it is an interesting one, the journey where you were...
And learned a lot of skills. No one taught me how to be a manager. I started life as a farmer, right? Wow. And then I went to ag school, and then I had a technical job, like agronomy, and then selling ag chem products, and then I became responsible for operations, and then one day somebody makes you a manager, and then one day somebody makes you a country manager, and then a regional manager, and then a CEO, and next thing you think, how did I get here?
And how did you get there? How do you think you got there?
Well, I don't know, because no one teaches you how to do that. I think just, positive attitude, can-do mentality, give 110. I always say give 110. Discipline. And empower people. It's all about energy. If you've got a dream, follow it, visualize it, materialize it, share it with people, and, work with your people and coach them and bring them along with you. And if you do that, business is really quite simple. People just complicate it. Get the marketing right, the sales right, look after the customers and look after your people, and the rest sort of works itself out.
Yeah. Well, they say, get the sales right, the marketing right, the people, all those things, which of course brings us on, I suppose, I might as well do that, which brings us on to the fact that, one, you and I know each other through our mutual friend, Peter Simons. I think, was he lecturing you at Muresk at the ag school? Is that how you guys met? How did that happen?
Yeah, I met Simo was at Muresk, and he was lecturing there at the time, and the subject he did was dairy cattle management. Was one of them, and he was great. He was one of the greatest lecturers and teachers I've had. I mean, I still look up to him as being a great communicator. Mm-hmm. Communication is not easy because people want to complicate it, but Simo could always throw in these little nuggets and bring it to life. And I think intelligence is taking complicated silos of information and being able to connect them, and he was able to sort of connect those, which was great.
Yeah, and as you say, energy, he's got that positive can-do energy as well, so he's transferring energy across the lecture theatre, that's for sure. So we got involved in this, so we knew each other from the 80s when you and Simo were even housemates, but I wanted to share, going back to the program that we did together, you got me involved. We're talking about looking after your people and empowering people. Let's talk about this BSI Sales Excellence Leadership Program. Do you want to talk about what motivated you, what got you, again, you've already talked about empowerment, but what was the catalyst to get you to say, hey, I've got to get Farnell involved and we've got to do something about sales?
Well, it's a good question, Lee. I started life as a salesperson myself with GlaxoSmithKline, and they did absolutely wonderful teaching. right? There was technical teaching and there was also sales teaching. And we used to get together every quarter. And that was very motivational and sort of powering, bringing people together. You learned as much from that sort of process as all the other stuff, the coming together, the camaraderie, the teamwork. And I just felt that today that was lacking. I mean, every organization I'd gone to, people had moved away from the basics of just looking after customers, knocking on doors, following up. And I've always been a pragmatist, Lee, because I grew up teaching very complicated science to farmers, and they're pragmatists. And they say, stuff the build us and the technical stuff, show me how it works. And, fundamentally, there's a great saying out there. It says, tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, and involve me and I learn. And I've always found that I always learn when I tag along with my managers and I go to sales with them, and I learn by watching and taking those sound bites. And all the greatest salespeople I've developed, I've done it the same way. They tag on with me. It's like an apprenticeship. And I just found that was missing. I mean, that was missing. And I wanted to get back to grassroots where I could bring the sales teams in and I could institutionalize them. And I'm a great believer in doing the reps. And that's something you used to say, do the reps, do the reps, do the reps. It's like fitness. It's like health. It's like, it's discipline. And discipline is a mechanism to do the right thing and a means of, continuous improvement. And that's what we were missing. We were missing that good recipe for sales training, implementing, measuring, monitoring, and sort of rewarding. So I'd known you from the past and you were a great speaker. And I thought, well, if I bring the guys in and I do that for 2 or 3 years, I can institutionalize it. Right. So I suppose lots of things had failed. I wanted to get back to basics. I wanted to involve them, not tell them, not teach them. I wanted to involve them. And I think that's what we did in our programs. We involved them. And you could probably see that in some of the pictures you got there where we were, role playing. I mean, it was very interactive.
Absolutely. It was interactive. I'm just trying to go back and find there it is there. So, well, that's right. Well, as we go through, but it was our colour zone system that we really institutionalised and key messages, but we got them involved through not only in the workshops every 90 days, and there was a lot of buddy teaching, buddy learning, doing the reps, reinforcement of all the key elements of the system. And what I particularly liked also, and I've said this to many CEOs and MDs since, is the fact that you and I partnered at the front of the room, where I would talk the system and some of the science and the theory, and you would talk how this applied to BSI. And we got, as you say, we got very practical, and you being able to give real life examples, real life current examples of how whatever the principle was I was teaching, how it related. And of course, our challenge was, and we always said that, the challenge was across 13 different countries with probably 8 to 10 or whatever it was, 7 to 10 different languages, Japan, Korea, Thailand, China. We had all these different languages, but at the same time, well, India, of course, but all these different languages. But by getting them involved and getting them teaching each other, it worked an absolute treat, didn't it?
Yeah, I think, to me, as a senior exec, I can't think of anything more important than looking after salespeople, because they're the barometer of the business.
Yeah.
And if you want to take a temperature of an animal or a person, you put a thermometer in your mouth. If you want to take a temperature of a company, just go and talk to the salespeople. They'll tell you what's happening, and talk to them in a way whereby they're in a safe environment and they can talk.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones interacting with the customers every day. They'll tell you how to fix your business. They'll tell you what's going wrong. They'll tell you what your competitors are doing better. So if you don't create an environment for them which is safe, it's very, very difficult, right?
Yeah.
And I found that I can't think of anything more important than spending, 3 days a month with the whole regional sales team leaders, right, interacting with yourself. It's a lot more productive sitting down than doing or reviewing budgets and admin and that sort of stuff. This is hands-on stuff at the front end of the business. They see it, they get empowered, they learn, they meet each other. And I think the key thing that was the take-home, Lee, is that it created a new language for them. Simple things like, relationship factor. Relationship equals frequency of contact times quality of contact, where quality is friendliness times value. You see, I still remember that. And it's so inspirational, but it's just so simple as well.
Yes.
It's just so true. And I think there was another one that you had there, which I quite like, was lifetime value of customer was the dollars times the frequency times the duration times referral. But they're really, really good.
There's the R factor there.
Yeah.
We really base so much, as you say, we base so much of the program on just that. Let's get scientific and systematic about frequency of contact, then times quality of contact. And of course, that's where we talked about the color zone system, and particularly the POMVIC system, where I think there's the desktop flip charts we had made to reinforce all of those messages in the system. And I saw it here before. There it is. Each country then developed their POMVIC pad to then systematize the use of a quality conversation. And of course, then we did the reps. Did the reps so that people practice over and over again to get better and better and better at having high quality conversations.
Yeah. No, it's all about discipline, about reps, isn't it? Lee, you're a great water polo player and you're a great swimmer, aren't you? But you wouldn't be in the health that you're in and the endurance that you have for swimming if you didn't get up every morning and do the reps.
Daily discipline, mate. Daily discipline. And this one here, of course, which is stretching the comfort zones, stretching on a regular basis, stretching the comfort zones together makes it easier and easier. So there's all these metaphors that we had built in. And this one here, which going back to, unconscious incompetence, when I try something for the first time, I realize I can't do it. But then conscious competence, when I start doing the reps, I become unconsciously competent. I don't even have to think about it, and I'm doing it. So, which is exactly what we were doing over that 3-year period in terms of high quality B2B sales.
Yeah, a bit like what Aristotle said, wasn't it? I mean, at the time, our tagline at BSI was making excellence a habit, and he said, "You are what you repeatedly do. Excellence is therefore not an act, but a habit."
Correct.
That's what we're talking about, isn't it? Doing the reps.
Yep, doing the reps over and over again. And of course, we even got to the point, this is beautiful. This interview's got me going back over all my old photographs. We even put in systems where we said, what are you going to do on a daily basis? Let's get some regular, frequent training and coaching going on. And again, we'll let the people set their own programs using our formulas, saying, okay, you choose which of the drills you're going to use, but do something. And here they are. This is Malaysia, but we did this right across every country, got them setting regular, deliberate practice sessions within their teams. And anyway, in India, of course, I remember they set up a whole academy. Remember they came back, was the name of a god of learning or something. I remember that. The Indians set that up. It was fantastic.
Well, they all took it and sort of modified it. I think the key point is continuity, and one of the challenges is keeping the momentum going here, because organisations generally bring training in for 1 or 2 years and they drop it. They think they've got it. Then 2-3 years later, the muscle memory's gone and you're back to where you are. Because if you think about it, if you have a sales staff attrition of 15%. What's the law of 72? 72 divided by 15, you're looking about every 5 years, your whole sales force is being replaced. So if you're not institutionalize these things on an ongoing basis, you get what I call muscle memory loss, corporate memory loss.
Correct. And of course, what we did was set up the train the trainer, where we then trained leaders within the organisation to then take on board and as you say, institutionalize it, because that's incredible when you, as you say, use that rule of 72. You have to plan for that turnover, even though you don't want it. It's the way it happens, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a reality. I mean, young people are job hopping all the time. In Asia, we call it leapfrogging because, people jump from one company to the next. It's how they get a promotion.
Yep.
Um, and I have
Well, I
nothing
mean,
wrong
if
with
you
going,
look
but
at, sorry,
keeping people as long as you can, but you have to institutionalize that process because as new people come into the organization, you are denying them the same opportunity that other salespeople had.
Yep, exactly. And in fact, I did an interview with a fellow who worked with Jack Welch at GE, and that was one of the values that Jack Welch has is I want you to get people so well trained that you then let them loose in other parts of the organization. In other words, rather than I've got a good person, I want to keep them. No, your job is to actually let them move on. And therefore, again, institutionalize the coaching, the training, the mentoring. So we're constantly growing people so that managers are coaches and empowerers. And of course, I'm looking, here are some of the, because I've got video of you over the time telling me how things were going. And numbers wise, the numbers in all cases were just fantastic, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, Lee, I'm a great believer that, budgets, performance are not about budgets and P&Ls. These are simply means of recording, but, businesses are based on strategies, right? And if you want to do something, you always have to have an objective, and then the objective has to have an activity, and the activity has to have an outcome, an output, and the output has to have an outcome, and the outcome has to have an impact. So let me give you a very, very easy example. If we want to feed people, that's our objective, right? So our activity is planting fruit and nut trees. Very simple, right? That's our activity. Our output is how many fruit and nut trees did we plant that survived to the age of 5 and started producing fruit. Our outcome is how much food did we produce, and our impact is how many people did we feed. Now, I apply that on everything I do. Sometimes everybody wants to go for outcome and impact, but no one wants to incubate. Plant the trees, right? Nurture them to the cotyledon stage, grow them up. That's the bit we're missing. We want instant gratification, instant money, instant profit, and you can't have it. But if you get the discipline right and you focus on activity, the output, and the outcome, the impact will come in time.
Yeah.
But we've got to give it time. It's like everything. We've got to give it time. And CEOs, Jack Welch, you're talking about him. I mean, he was there for over 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years of consistent learning mistakes, and develop some great people. I've had a lot of very good GE people working in my business. They're disciplined, they're methodical, they're good people managers. He institutionalized it, but that's hard to do today when you change CEOs every 3, 4, 5 years. You've got constant ruptures and changing coming in, and their whole lineage that comes in with them causes additional ruptures and change the structures and, lots of shenanigans. But,
Mate, it was interesting because he talked about the 4 E's. He thinks it was energy, the person bringing good energy, and then he talked about energizing people as well. Just it's so embedding the values, which again comes from training. And this particular guy, Kieran Barr, talked about the academy and the quality of the consistent leadership training, which is exactly what you were doing, and when we were working together in BSI. So, mate, look. First of all, I'm not ending the interview, but I'm just saying thank you for getting me to actually find these slides again, because I've been sitting on my computer for the last 2 or 3 years through COVID and so on. But this part that Michael Lamb said around, we can now decode the success of our best performing salespeople because we broke it down and showed people how to deconstruct the sales process. And as you say, introduced a new language, which in Michael's case, from what I recall, I think they grew the sales team by something like 30% or something. So they were undergoing a massive amount of induction and training. So it gave them a structure to scale best practice sales, obviously not just in China, but China was a great example of it. And of course, some of the people he had there, I'm just looking back, I think it was Sophia Wang, the way she took Pomvik and just really worked and trained her people in it was so impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, we were also in a part of the world which was the fastest growing part of the world for at least 2 decades.
Yeah.
You have to remember, it took the UK 77 years to double its GDP, America 40, and China 20. So,
Yeah.
I experienced this crazy growth over the last 30 years. And in fast moving businesses, we got high attrition, people moving on. You've really got to institutionalize things, because it can get very messy and very complicated if you don't. And I learned from a very young age that you can't manage people, right? You can't put scientific reasoning into an irrational, illogical organism, which humans are. But you can manage processes and systems and empower people to take ownership of those. So there's full ownership. So when you're attacking someone, you're not attacking them, you're attacking the process. Follow the process. Oh, the process is no good. Okay, fix the process, change the process. Yeah.
Yes, which is Deming, and of course you guys at BSI, that was the whole thing around systems. Deming saying 94% of problems are due to the system. So stop blaming the people. What is your system? And you go, well, they're not following the system. Well, what's your system to train them and get them to follow the system?
Absolutely, everything comes back to system. As an agriculturalist, I remember in my early consulting days, I'd go out there and I'd get 20 farmers together, and I'd say, what are you guys doing? They said, well, we're farming. And I said, well, some of you are doing a ton per hectare and some 3 tons per hectare. Look up the sky, it's blue, the rain, the clouds, the soil, it's all the same. But you've got huge variability in your performance. So I set up a 3-ton club and then a 4-ton club, and I applied that to horticulture products, grain, meat. And all I did really is had farmers teaching farmers to create the best recipe possible, which became the standard. They all put together and increased their profits 300-400%.
Oh, beautiful, mate.
If you look at a franchise organization, is a really good example. Franchises are small businesses, but their success rate is about 5 times greater than the equivalent small business. Why? Because they're following proven recipes.
Yes, which is our CBP. Collective brain power, but as you say, combined best practice by capturing best practice, which is one of the tools that we created there, which was that booklet. Well, not only the booklet, well, there it is there, that one there, the embedding sales habits. Remember that book? We captured at least 20 of the best practices. And then when we took that to Europe that time, and here it is, there was just 20 in that booklet, and the Europeans go, what the hell? How long has this been going on? CBP, collective brain power equals collective best practice. It just worked an absolute treat. And again, systematizing the sales process and how that then linked in with the CRM, so that we didn't lose the data, which again is part of systematizing. And then this, which was your initiative around the heat maps, to go who is actually following and implementing the best practice and who isn't, and now let's coach those people and work with the managers to make sure that happened. So, and of course here, this one here, our Indian friends who loved to share best practice and what they were up to. But again, that was part of the forum, wasn't it, where we created every 90 days, not just looking at budgets, but beginning to share best practice, and how we then cross-sold and learnt from various countries as to what was going on in Japan that we could use in India, what was going on in Thailand that we could use in Korea or other places. So comment on that in terms of that CBP, the way we did that every 90 days.
Well, I think, we came up with that. I think that was an acronym that I think it's the first acronym I've come up with in my life that was actually my own. But collective brain power was basically bringing people together every 3 months, and collective best practice was as a result of collective brain power, bringing people in, learning from each other. So that's why we came up with the CBP equals CBP.
Yes.
And then we started monitoring that, because, as you said, if you don't follow up and measure and monitor, you don't institutionalize. So everybody had to report on that. And then we also, they developed their own matrix, and they put up their own television screens in each of the office, and it was a bit like a race, you know what I mean? So they would actually put each other's results up there. And that it was competitive in nature. It was fun. It wasn't there to ridicule people, but more to help people, and then, celebrate the success of those that had achieved well. So we had individual KPIs, group KPIs, and then the country sort of KPIs. And that was very inspirational. They'd get a big win. It would go up on the screen, the bell would ring, and you create a bit of excitement in the office.
Brilliant. And mate,
so that was just, reinforcing the positive behavior of camaraderie and teamwork and working together and celebrating our successes.
Yes. And as you say, numbers wise, was it 3 years of record sales? I can't remember. What was the outcome of all of that?
Well, I can't remember the figures, but it was a significant increase, well over 100%, and then it sort of slowed down a bit. But you're talking about percentages, which are very dangerous, because the absolute number is sort of doubling. If you get 100%, you're doubling, so your percentage is less. But all I can say is that they were probably some of the best times I've experienced in terms of the money that we spent, the camaraderie that we created, the energy and enthusiasm, and we had everyone singing on the same song. When I first came to the company, there were 13 different ways of presenting the company.
Yes.
No core collateral, no core marketing. And you can go to any organization I've been to, the first thing I do is go around all the countries and I say to them, present to me the company. And I quickly realized there's 14 different ways of doing it. And if you want to be a global brand, you have to be singing the same song. Right? Now, I'm not saying you don't localize, but you've got to have a pitch.
Yes. And there's going to be best practice. Some countries are going to you're going to say, hang on, that we need that being said in other places as well.
Yeah, so I had a thing on core collateral, and then we had to present to customers in a certain way. We had to give our proposals in a certain way. And then I introduced what I call a mystery shopper, which is probably one of the best things, whereby you get a mystery shopper asking each of the countries for a quotation in specific products, and then looking at what was the response time, what was sold, was there upsell, was there cross-sell, what was content that was sent, did they follow the instructions?
Yeah.
And Lee, that doesn't lie, Customer surveys are not
so
very
people
good.
can contact you on LinkedIn, and it'll also be attached to this podcast. Mate, anything else you want to say before we wind up?
Thank you very much, Lee. That's all I want to say. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for reaching out. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed this discussion. No notes, no rehearsal. It's just come out as it was. So I'm a little bit, sorry if I haven't been well prepared, but
mate, you've been brilliant. Mate, even when you're unprepared, you look prepared. There's no doubt about it. You're such a professional. Mate, I appreciate what we've done today. I look forward to us staying in touch. Of course, we will. Let's see it. Sooner or later, we'll do some great work again together, I'm sure. Thanks, mate.
See you later. Bye.
Thanks, mate. Bye. Well, what a fantastic interview that was, where we're sharing specifically what we did in a very systematic, strategic way to grow the sales, to engage and empower and enable the sales team. Now, you may not have sales teams across 13 countries, but then again, you might. You might just have one or two people in the team, but the same principles apply. The systematization, the collective best practice equals collective brain power, where you build in, institutionalize regular coaching, training, sharing of ideas, sharing of learning. So you literally have a sales kaizen, as we say, the Aristotle quote. We are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an act, but a habit. The habits of sales excellence. And it's not that hard. It's just a different routine. And the numbers and the commissions and the profits and all of the great things that come from high performance and growth, well, everybody gets them. It's a win-win situation. Look, touch base. Want to find out more? Go to leefarnell.com or pdcgrowth.com or click the link in the description. We'd love to help you, or even give you some of our free tools, give you a taster to get you on the right path. Thanks for listening. See you again next time. And thanks also to David Horlock for sharing so wonderfully. See you soon. Oh, P.S. You want to look at this full video, go to YouTube. You can see the interview, and there's also pictures, slides, graphs, models that you can look at as well. I'll put that YouTube link in the description here too. See you next time. Thanks for listening. Oh, by the way, do share this with your friends. Bye.